Today's episode is a topic that I love: pregnancy dreams and dreams about conception before the baby is born. So for those who are parents or are thinking of becoming parents someday, it's a tough but important journey that you're on. And I'm proud of you for raising smart, conscious little humans. I also want to remind listeners to leave a review, comment, share, follow to support the guests, and check out the links in the description. I have a free online workshop coming up this month about trauma, nightmares, and lucid dreaming, so don't miss out on this opportunity to get a free workshop. I also co-founded an aspiring startup nonprofit called Lucid Dream Initiative, and we're building a community of lucid dream coaches, enthusiasts, and students. It's composed of a collective of projects that fit into dream research, education, art, and media, and we're currently calling out to anyone that wants to get involved. With that being said, please welcome Christel Janssen, today's guest, who's a spiritual birth doula and helps people communicate telepathically to their unborn babies. Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to talk with you. I've been following your content for a while now, so I've been wanting to do an episode about this type of stuff because I find it very, very fascinating. Your TikTok is great, by the way. I love your videos.
Yeah, I mean, same with you. Like, I love what you're posting, and I think it's so great to create awareness, about the invisible, basically. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So my name is Christel Janssen, and I'm here on Kauai. I'm originally from the Netherlands, and I am all into telepathy. And that actually started for me when I had all these experiences in a flotation tank. And that is where I really kind of learned how to access other dimensions. And I was trained as an acupuncturist, focused on women with fertility issues, helping women with their menstrual cycle. And then from there, from developing myself kind of energetically, I learned to really tune into someone's body and to also connect telepathically to baby souls. That was kind of a next step. And that was something too that I really developed with my own daughter when she announced herself. And during the pregnancy, we had this communication going on, and it was in dreams, it was in meditations, or in just like lucid states, basically. And she would tell me things, and she would tell me what pregnancy not is about, and that it really is, for example, one thing she would tell me, it's gender is not important at all for this perspective where they come from. I mean, here it's very important for us, but if you understand that from their perspective, it's so different. It becomes a completely different deal. So and this is what I currently do. So I help other women to develop this bond, to connect to the soul of their baby, in order to let the whole process of conceiving and of pregnancy and birth really go smooth and easy. Yeah.
So you mentioned a second ago something about the flotation device. I want to know about that. What is that?
Yeah, so I had the incredible opportunity to live for 1 year in a place where they had a flotation tank. So a flotation tank is like this isolation tank, and it's where it's like this egg-shaped device where you go in and you actually take away all sensory input. So, I mean, apart from so the temperature of the water is the same as your body temperature. You don't see anything. It's dark. You don't hear anything. It's isolated. And it is, you smell a little bit the water, but basically that was, the amazing thing was that I was able to go in it for a year long, almost every day. And I had these amazing experiences. So what started happening was that I realized that I would go in it. And the first and foremost important thing was to relax. To relax your body, to really relax your neck. To kind of really surrender. And that sometimes, I got better and better at it, but it's really letting your body deeply relax. And then what would happen is that my energy body would start floating. So it would float above my physical body. Or first, in that process of relaxation, my body started to always tremble. So I would just my whole body started to tremble and shake, just involuntarily. I wouldn't do anything, but it would just happen. And then I would just start floating. So my energy body started floating above my body. And then what always would happen is that I would float, it was like I was going to stand up. So from from laying and floating, I would stand up and then I would start spiraling. I would start spiraling, and I would spiral into an experience. And the amazing thing was that I was able to actually guide myself to do this. So the intention in which I came into this flotation tank would determine the experience. Could just say, oh, I just want to deeply relax. Or I could just say, I want to experience my own birth. Or I want to experience the solution to a problem. Or like I could just have these. I had it completely dialed in that I knew, okay, I know how to get into this state. And then I would fall into this like spiraling tunnel. And then I would be presented with what my intention was. And so that is where I really kind of learned to access other dimensions, really. Yeah. And this was like a long time ago. I mean, I think I was 24 or something. It's 30 years ago.
Yeah, so, that's fascinating. Yeah. And how long would you float in there?
It would always be, it wasn't that long. I mean, it was between 30 and 45 minutes. It would never be much longer. And I think that was for certain reasons. I know people have dematerialized in those things. And I was always like, okay, if I stay longer, I mean, not that I was thinking, I mean, it was just like I would go in the experience and then I would move out. And that was usually that amount of time. Yeah. And I'm not completely sure why, but yeah.
Interesting. So when we have these types of out-of-body experiences and we go and explore other dimensions, do you think this place that our astral body or our soul goes to is related to where babies come from before they're born, or maybe where we go after we die? Do you think it's the same or different places?
There's so many layers to this experience. So it could be it just could be that you're just going to your unconscious. But I always compare it to, it is like we have the earth, and around the earth is all these different layers. And there is these, what I call near earth realms, where there's all this like stuff that's happening on earth is reflected there. And there's, and there is the part that's kind of outside of it, which is the crystalline realms, where it's more, where there is no duality so much. But and this is usually when I speak about the new children, I make a distinction with that. They are there. They're located in this kind of space outside of duality, and where there's just creation energy, where there is just inspiration and creation energy. And they come from that space. And that's where they kind of create their life plan and prepare for their life on earth. And there's also certain schooling that they do or that they go through. And so what my own experience is really that when I would go there, I would go through this kind of outer atmosphere of the earth, simply.
Yeah, that makes sense with the layers. Because even just through my own experience with out of body, I've noticed that there's different depths that you can go to. And when you mention new children, what do you mean by that specifically?
I always make the distinction between birth by attraction and birth by conscious choice. And birth by attraction is just that energy seeks energy, which usually it is that if you die, you kind of stay, you can either go all the way back to this pure realm, like this, or you can kind of stay closer to earth in these near earth realms. And then you're like sucked back into this cosmic womb. So this happens a lot. Like 80% of all people born on Earth are going through this kind of like, I mean, you could call it karma, but I don't call it that way. But it's but so the new children, they have gone through this. They've either been on Earth before. Usually they've reached certain levels of development. And they're, so they're on a higher frequency, and they come in a much more conscious way. And they want to have also conscious parents. And it could also be souls that have never been on Earth before. They can come from other planets, from other dimensions, other solar systems. They can come straight out of God, or straight, it could be like angels incarnated. I mean, it could be, but the new children, they have really a special mission, and so it's about 20% of children that are born on Earth currently are coming in as new children, and they have certain abilities. And I mean, the main characteristic is really that they're not going to forget who they are. Like many of us did. Like we come here and we totally forget who we are, and then we have to do therapy and kind of figure out who are we, what am I doing here, and what is life about. But they come in like, okay, they know exactly that they are beings that incarnate, and they know that this is in a way just a game. This is just a simulation or just an experience. And this is, I mean, in a way, our 3D reality is not to be taken so seriously. They know that. They know lucid dreaming, they know all kind of things. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. It's really fascinating. And I've always thought as well that, we can choose our own parents, or that babies choose who they, where they want to be born. Do you think this applies to everybody who's born? I know a lot of people struggle with that idea of like, why would I choose this life? Why would I choose what I went through? Or my parents were terrible. Why would I choose them? So What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think also it's good to understand, like, I mean, again, it comes back to this birth by attraction and birth by conscious choice. That's part of it. Also, it's usually just like who we are is like this incredible big soul. But who incarnates is only a small part of that big soul. So it's usually an aspect that incarnates. So it could be that you're just this big enlightened being, and a part of you says, okay, I'm gonna experience what it is to be brought in this extreme density and limitation and situation maybe of abuse or pain or suffering, and to then give myself some keys to move out of it. So sometimes it is, and partially part of it is just birth by attraction, where certain energies that are not resolved kind of continue and want to be resolved. And then this part of you just incarnates as a person and experiences these terrible situations, and also knows, okay, during my life, I'm going to kind of raise above it, and I'm going to heal, and I'm going to find other ways, and I'm going to, and it's going to serve you in one way of another or another. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of how I really view it. It's, I mean, you would always think like, why would I, if you would really choose your parents, why would you choose these terrible parents? And yet still, I mean, sometimes it's not something that you can really determine with your mind. You cannot really with your mind say, oh, it is because of that. But it's usually like this really deep feeling and realization how perfect it is, and how it's just the way energy plays out. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So would you say that birth by conscious choice is when, the parents are intentionally trying to have babies and connect? And then is birth by attraction just when the soul is attracted to, whichever energy fits, whether they planned the pregnancy or not?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's kind of like, so, I mean, in an extreme case, like there is this soul that left the earth maybe in a traumatic way, or through a car accident, or and then that energy kind of stays with this soul, and it is like I said before, it could stay in these near earth realms, and then it's kind of sucked back into this cosmic womb. There's this big cosmic birth canal that's the one-way highway to earth, and then they're in there like unconscious, and then there's parents on earth that kind of match that energy, that maybe are in an abusive relationship, or are whatever, drug addicts or whatever, and they just open up, and they send out this signal, like, and it could be very unconscious. So because there's always like, well, why is it so easy for those people that are not conscious at all to become pregnant? But that is because of these energies. They look for each other, and then certain patterns repeat itself. And it's not always like good or bad, it's usually a whole package of all kind of energies, very beautiful energies, and very kind of more challenging energies that kind of start matching. Yeah. So, but birth by conscious choice is much more where you are completely aware as parents okay, this is why we want to conceive, like that, really know the why. And it's not so much the why is really coming from your being, from your soul, that okay, this fits in my current life plan. And then it's not like on demand, it's not like, okay, now this month I'm going to get pregnant. It could be that you had this conscious choice a year ago, and then a year later, all of a sudden you conceive. So sometimes I ask women that became pregnant and they really made a conscious choice. They said, was it a conscious conception? And they say no, and it is because they're like, they were not aware when it was happening. But these souls, they are really outside time and space, so it's not like we cannot control the time and space here, it's so sometimes it comes as a surprise where it wasn't really a surprise. There was made like this more conscious choice.
Yeah, that's interesting. For me personally, like I have always wanted to have kids since I was a child, like so young. It's always been like a huge part of like what I feel like my path in life is. And I've just always loved kids and wanted to contribute to like, raising conscious children of the next generation, which is so important. But it's funny, because as much as I have these desires and, I'm approaching 30 or whatever, I don't have money and I don't have a husband. So what are ways that women can, if they want to start conscious conception, maybe even before they're actually ready? Is that something that you talk about?
Yes. Yeah. I talk about that actually a lot too. So often dating is so kind of convoluted by the desire to have a child. So these women, they're like, I want to have the father for my children, or and that can sometimes put such a pressure on looking for a partner. So what I always say, if you can kind of cultivate and nourish and connect to this desire to have children, and then so I teach certain techniques where you can already develop a conscious bond, where it's not only that you have this desire, but where you literally allow yourself to raise your vibration and to connect. So basically, where we are on Earth is a much lower vibration, where these souls are is a much higher vibration. And to connect to your future baby is to help yourself to raise your vibration and to know that you're going to kind of meet in the middle. And then when you can do that, and sometimes it's like a group of souls that you connect to, and sometimes it's just one, and then you will start, it feels really good in the first place. It feels really good because you feel like it's really honoring who you are as a soul, and it's honoring them, and they feel really appreciated and loved and acknowledged for not just like that they're going to be a baby, but they're going to be a completely intelligent being that's kind of on the same level as you, or of a much higher level, and that's feels honored to be received in that way. So and from there, it's amazing to see that things start to then shift. So then the right father will be brought to you, and you don't have to do it anymore. And then the finances will fall into place. Like when my daughter was born, it was in 2008 when that big crash was. Then the second she was born, she brought so much abundance, like things were flowing so well. It's kind of, you have to reverse engineer it, maybe. Or and it doesn't mean you cannot do it with your willpower, you know about that. You cannot just like will yourself there, but it's really like kind of opening up and then have these exchanges and then see where it wants to go, and know that you create like this beautiful foundation in yourself for a soul to come. And then you will just benefit from it for the rest of your life. That's the beautiful thing. So the more you're able to make this conscious connection and nurture it and develop it, that during the life of the child, you just know who it is, and you know why you're together, and you know each moment how they feel, what they're doing. It creates an amazing telepathic connection. Like my daughter and I, we can never do really like a guessing game, because we always know, like, what am I thinking about? We just know what the other is thinking about.
That's cool.
But yeah.
So to what extent can the incoming soul affect the events happening? I've heard stories of like maybe a miscarriage was because the soul wasn't ready or didn't like the energy, or even they purposefully make condoms break so that they can be born, or whatever way that it could go.
Yes, exactly. I mean, if you would really listen to them, they always say, I'm the one making it happen. So as much emphasis there is here on fertility and becoming pregnant, they sometimes say, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, even though you have like a certain illness or PCOS or whatever your whole life, if you give them the ability to come, then it appears that it is healed, or all of a sudden your ovaries are responding normal, and they do come through all kinds of birth control, the pill even, and or diaphragms, or I had that happen myself, and or morning after pills or whatever that or condoms that break. They have such an incredible influence. I mean, I know so many stories where the soul just was like, okay, it's time. I need to come right now. And you can think in your own timing, but it's usually, or it's always their timing. Yeah. And,
wow.
and sometimes they come, in the case of miscarriage, they come as, and it's sometimes hard to explain, but sometimes they come for a little bit to just do like a test flight. You know, it sounds really bizarre, but they sometimes come to experience a body for a little bit. And that's kind of what my daughter told me too. Like, I was pregnant in 1999, and then I was really happy, but then my partner appeared to be had a gambling addiction and took all my money, and I was like, this is not right. So I chose an abortion. And when my daughter was born 7 years later, and she was 4 years old, she started talking about this experience. And she said, I was in your belly before, and you went to the doctor and took me out. And I was kind of like shocked, like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. And she was like, oh, but that was not a big deal. She said, it wasn't your choice. It was my choice, she said. Or she said, in fact, we all chose to come back later in Hawaii, be born in Hawaii. So this was in the Netherlands. And she said, I didn't want to be born in the Netherlands. I wanted to be born in Hawaii, and I knew that already. So I left. I wanted to leave. Whereas in my perspective, it completely was like, I made the decision to have this abortion. So that is another aspect, that we think it's our choice or our doing, but from their perspective, they're the one initiating it. And so she was speaking about this whole group of souls that she was part of, that all were in bodies before. They all had an experience as in a pregnant mother, and then had a miscarriage or just left, you know, and then to come back later as a group. And then she named all her friends, and some were with different parents, different fathers, but we all decided to be born together. So I mean, when you really plug into this awareness of these souls and how they come here and what they choose, all the choices that they make, and the influence it has here on our reality, it's amazing. It's amazing, because then, I mean, it's such a liberation in a way for me to understand that it was her choice and it was in a complete agreement. And that's what she said. She said, you told me that I could come back later. And it was true. I said, I'm sorry. It's not going to work out, but you can come back later. And she said, because she didn't come, something else needed to come. And then she said, instead of me, our dog came, which was so amazing, because I had indeed a dog that was born 2 months later. And the conception of that dog was the same day as the conception of that pregnancy, which is super bizarre, you know? And my daughter, like when she was like, that was 11 years later, she was speaking about this. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That makes me think that even our pets are part of this like soul journey that we're on.
Yes, very much. Yeah. I mean, there's so much to say about this. Yeah. I describe this in my book with my own dog. It's just amazing. They're very much part of our conception journeys. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's really comforting. A lot of people who have miscarriages or failed pregnancies, they are hard on themselves, so this is good for them to hear. And I've always wondered that, like, is when you get pregnant again, is it the same soul? Is it a different one? I think it could be both depending on the circumstances, but that is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is both. Yeah, it could be completely different soul, but sometimes, usually, when you have developed like some kind of agreement or bond, then it can stay. And sometimes it's 10 years later that you conceive. Yeah, of the same soul.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you have any particular like interesting stories, either from your own pregnancy that comes to mind, or stories you have heard that you want to share? If like anything stands out to you right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but or something simple like when I was pregnant myself. I mean, it's like everything that you're doing and thinking, they are experiencing with you, and it's not to create guilt or to create or to say like, but they're to have this awareness that they're aware of everything. My daughter would just tell me all these things. Like, for example, she had announced herself. So 2 weeks before I got pregnant of her, she appeared as a like a bubble, like a ball of energy. And she like visceral present. And she said, "I want to be born with you. Is that okay?" And it was so strong and clear. And I felt that that question landed so deep in me, and the answer came from so deep too. So I really felt like I said yes with all of my being. I mean, it couldn't be like it was the deepest yes I've ever said, and it was such a beautiful, pure, respectful, mutual agreement question. And so in that moment, I felt like worlds just moved. And I it was like, I know that in this moment, my whole life with her is laid out, and all the potentials. And because of this deep mutual agreement, I know that things are going to be easy. Every part of it is going to be easy. And 2 weeks later, I had like the conception, and the moment. I mean, the moment of conception was really beautiful too. I described this in my book too. That because a conception takes usually is a few hours after, or can be a few days even after the intercourse. So, but that morning was the intimacy with my partner, which was really special. When you have a conscious conception and you're not even fully aware of it, but the being is really present, and makes it like an amazing experience where you're like, whoa, I've never felt so deep in love, and that you even wonder, am I in love with this person, or am I in love with myself, or am I in love with my baby, or is it all of it, or it's just this incredible space. And then later this afternoon, I was sitting by myself at the beach, really far from the ocean, and I felt this incredible like golden light enter me. And I knew, okay, this is a conception. And then I opened my eyes, and there was this really big shell. I mean, I always feel a little bit embarrassed to say, but it had appeared in front of me. It was wet, and it was this big shell that had appeared, and the ocean didn't bring it there. And the sand was dry, but the shell was wet, and there was no way that that anybody could have put it there, or it was just like it had appeared. And the same had happened that first time when I got pregnant in 1999 with my daughter. And that a pearl appeared out of the sky, like and fell on my paper. I mean, there's a whole story to that, but so. All to say, there is so much magic happening, and in this manifestation, in this process of coming into embodiment and coming into the manifestation and coming into this world. Yeah.
Wow. That is magical. Yeah. And I fully believe it. I mean, there's so much we don't know about reality and ourselves. And I know we just barely scratched the surface of a couple of things. So I'll let you talk about your book in a second and where people can find your page and stuff. But I do want to ask you about dreams, because I love
Yes.
talking about dreams. What are
Yes.
pregnancy dreams like? Why do people report they're so crazy and weird and spiritual? I mean, I know you're literally a portal while you're pregnant.
Yeah.
But what was your experience like?
Yeah. So I think it's really important to understand that when you're pregnant, or even a few months before you become pregnant, you are in this, what I call it, this vortex, this spiritual womb, this spiritual birth canal. And it's like this. I mean, sometimes there's all different shapes and forms that you can experience it. Sometimes it's more like a tunnel. Sometimes it's like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's like this big space that's really bubbly. But it's basically a reflection of our physical womb and physical birth canal. And because everything that's here on this physical realm is also mirrored on the other side, or and the other vice versa. So when you're pregnant, you're connected to this space. And in this space are all the emotions and all the energies that are currently on Earth. So there is the wildest things like war and just pain and anger and aggression and grief. And there's all these different emotions and energies. And there's also the most beautiful, pure energies. So usually in the dream time, you go there, and it could either be that you are just with your baby in this really pure merging place where it's really lovely and sweet, and you're just going through this cosmic womb, or you just experience all the energies that the soul of your baby also is experiencing, which could be, I mean, it could be a very wild ride, and this is what you experience. So many women report that they have all these terrible dreams. And it doesn't mean specifically that your child has that energy, but it means what they are going through, or that you're just experiencing what is in there too. You it's like all the souls that are going to be born on Earth in the next 10, 12, 11, 13 months are in there. And they come with all kind of energies. And some are very unconscious and very like confused and chaotic. And others are very like balanced. And that's what you can all feel. And you can do that during the day. And that's can cause morning sickness. But especially during the dream time, and that's why I always advise women that are pregnant to do certain breathing exercises to kind of balance yourself and to prepare yourself. Like, okay, I'm going to go back in the dream time, and I'm going to be connecting to this cosmic womb, and I can do it in an unconscious way and be like swept away, or I can experience like the essence really of what incarnation is, you know, So it's you can go there in a very conscious way, and then it doesn't need to be so wild, and then you can, and then women hear their names, or hear about the path of this child, or hear about the connection to other family members, they get the most amazing information. Yeah.
That is so cool. It reminds me, have you seen the Disney movie Soul?
Yes.
So
yes.
good. It kind of reminds me of that, how they plan out, their life, and then they come in and then they go out, and then there's the new souls and all that. That's such a good movie.
Yeah. It's amazing how Disney or all how movies show this information, and it's really visionary often. Yeah. Or, that's another aspect. So these souls, they get, or these 20% of new energy souls, children, they get a preparation. So they get really a preparation to come to Earth. They are prepared. They know how conception works, how a female body works. They know all the laws on Earth, but they also learn about the future. So they're very visionary. They know already what's going to happen on Earth in 15 years, where we are just very limited here. We don't know, but they already have this visionary information, and to know that, and to help these souls to come here with this information and not being shut down is like a tremendous asset, I think.
And so when they come and they remember their past and the universe and all of that, do you think that stays with them, or as they grow older into like adolescence and adulthood, do you think they kind of separate from that a bit?
I mean, I think they separate much less than our generations did, like earlier generation. They kind of like they keep certain memories active and with them. But I mean, to various degree, they also forget and shut down. And depending on, I know sometimes the way they're educated or they're raised but in general, they have this commitment that they remember who they are and how the world works and what they come here to do. Yeah.
That is beautiful. This is fascinating stuff. So if people want to know more, what's your book called? Where can they find it, or where can they find you and your content?
Yeah. So my book is called Clouds in Bodies, Essential Guide to Conscious Conception for the New Energy Children. So it is really about those new children, and it's on Amazon and on TikTok. I also have another book called 49 Days, which could be super interesting for you too, which is about the afterlife, where I had but maybe we should do another podcast about it. It's about, I had all these for 2.5 years. I had these amazing communications with my boyfriend who died, and communicated on my computer screen from his coma about, and from the afterlife, about where he was and all these different dimensions he would go to, and ultimately also came back to his body. I mean, it's
wow. I need to know more about that.
Yeah,
that's, you're gonna have to do a part two.
Yes, we do. I'm sure we do. Yeah. So for me, it's really helpful to have this information to understand what happens after we die, and to understand like all these different these layers. I feel like I know so much about it because of that experience, which was so outrageous. I mean, and I have been in so many ways denied, or judged about it was super bizarre. But so that's another book, 49 Days. It's called The Sensuous Journey in the Modern Afterlife. But anyway, and I teach all kind of classes about telepathy and connecting to the soul of your baby during pregnancy and for conception. And you can find me at ChristelJanssen.com. So ChristelJanssen.com. And I'm mostly under the handle Spontaneous Movement as on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, that's where you can find me. Yeah.
So do you have any to close out, like any just thoughts or advice on your mind for maybe anybody that this episode could relate to?
If you're slightly thinking that there is more to birth than what we are presented with, when you're struggling like in the medical world, and you feel that this resonates, find ways to connect to your baby, because it will, your child will be so grateful that you do this. And I mean, to me, I have to say that still, there's not a day going by that I don't realize the incredible gift it is to have a conscious conception. It just takes the guessing out of everything. So if you slightly feel that this resonates, or connect to me and do a class, but know that you can already connect and invite your soul in, and that's such an incredible gift. And I'm sure that that's going to change the world, so I'm actually very hopeful for the future. Connecting to these babies just makes you very hopeful, even though we think that the world is coming to an end. But when you connect to them, they're like, oh no, not at all. We will come and incarnate, and we come to have our own experience, and we're excited about it, and we're going to do this. We got this. So that's, I guess that's my closing statement.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the future too. I think that conscious children are going to make the world a better place.
Right. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that there is going to be more and more and more conscious children, it's going to kind of grow and become bigger. And so there's going to be a whole different movement. And
yeah.